I am coming to you today with a much anticipated video that I've been promising for a while on the topic of the message that I received from the blue avians from Sirius B. Now this message covers the topics of the different ages on Earth and the end of that cycle. It covers the different types of children and souls that are coming in and what they will be doing, what they're here to do, and ways that we can activate these different states within our energy bodies for ourselves. So in other words, it's not just for new souls coming in, it's also for the souls that are already here that are on the awakening path as well. So I just want to make that clear. Without further ado, let's begin. I'm not going to share everything that I heard from them because some of it was just for me or just for a few select folks, but I was told to share certain parts of the message with the public, so that's what I'm doing. Now I want to be clear that although I do have a connection to the Sirius B blue avians, they are not what you would call my origin point within the universe or my race of origin within the universe. I just wanted to make that clear. I also want to make clear that they are not of Anunnaki heritage, although there are some hybridized Anunnaki lines that are avian based. These are not an Anunnaki lineage, so I just wanted to make that clear as well. Now, from what they told me, these beings are mostly guardians and watchers over different realms. They don't get too involved. They more so make sure that the larger energy currents and the larger scheme of things are in proper order. They don't really meddle in minute affairs, is the energy that I got. They more so intervene when there's something cataclysmic going to happen at a universal level or at a galactic level, but they don't really meddle in everyday affairs. However, they are constantly watching and recording, and they are guardians of, the galaxy, of the universe, if you will. So I wanted to make that clear. They do not travel through ships, they travel through portals. They're time travelers. They know how to bend the space and time continuum. They know how to travel through different dimensions. So they really use their own bodies as light Merkabas through Stargate portals. So that's something else that they told me as well. Now I know that there's a lot circulating about blue avian beings. I'm not sure if these are the same beings that are commonly documented or if they're different. I do know that there are multiple races of avians, and just because there is a blue avian race does not mean it's necessarily the same blue avian race that everybody is coming in contact with. So I want to put that out there as a disclaimer as well. So I'm only going to speak from my personal experience with these beings and what they shared with me. They did communicate mostly telepathically, and they would give me pictures and impressions and sometimes phrases or words. So what they started explaining to me first and foremost was going over the different ages on Earth. Now in my videos, more so on YouTube before I switched to Vimeo, I talked about the different ages of Earth, and I talked about it from the Anunnaki perspective of the Council of Nine. Now, I did not go in super detail, and so I want to really talk about that more from the perspective of the blue avians that were in communication with me. There were, and have been up to this point in this particular cycle, there have been 5 root races and 5 ages. So the first age was what we would call the golden age, and this was during the time of Mu. There was a time of unification and oneness, the understanding that everybody was part of a collective consciousness. Beings at this point were completely activated. They were fully immortal, and they had access to pretty much godlike power. And these were beings on Earth. They were mostly gold-skinned and gold-blooded, so they had high-level gold content in their blood. They vibrated on multiple dimensions, some going all the way up to 12D, I'm hearing. And a lot of the golden children, which I'm going to be talking about later on in this video, actually are from this age, just within the context of Earth anyway. And when residing in the celestial realm, which are where they're at when they're not on Earth, they tend to resonate at the 12D solar ray vibration. So these were the people that incarnated at this time. Now the next age was the Silver Age, okay? Now this is where we go into the age of Lemuria, okay? Now there were still some golden age beings that were left during the Silver Age, when the Silver Age was starting. Most of them pretty much shifted into a different dimension during the time of Lemuria, or they became Lemurians themselves and sort of dropped down in density. So this literally, the ages are not just about vibration, they're literally also about the vibration itself affected the avatars. So when beings residing on Earth were in the Golden Age, their avatars were literally a reflection of that. So same thing with all the ages. So in the Silver Age, these were the blue-skinned beings, the blue-skinned people, and they were blue-blooded from high silver content. Now, there are those from certain elite bloodlines that call themselves the Blue Bloods because they consider themselves going back to this bloodline without any unbroken lineage. But whether or not that's true, there's really no way to really know for sure. But that's where the term blue blood comes from. It really has nothing to do with the socioeconomic status, or whether or not they are involved in high-level occult societies or elitist groups. It has more to do with their bloodline, and them believing that they kept their bloodline so pure that they can trace it back unbroken to the Silver Age. Now, the Copper Age came after. This would be, now, toward the end of the Silver Age, we also have Atlantis as well. So when Mu broke into Lemuria, was sort of a breakdown, if you will, because Lemuria, which happened during the Silver Age, was really the age of magic, connection with animals, crystal light technology, elemental connection. These beings could still have multiple dimensional access, more so through portals instead of phasing in and out themselves. And they were still very connected to nature, and this was a more feminine energy. Now, when Atlantis broke away from Lemuria, now, Atlantis happened a little later on. It was still within the Silver Age, toward the end of the Silver Age. And Atlantis was really more focused on technology and more focused on advancements of technology and the race. Like wanting to evolve in a technological way, very logical in thought, more masculine in nature. And so, of course, there was a war that broke out between the two, really representing that, division between the feminine and masculine polarities of the mind or the collective consciousness. Whereas during the time of Mu, it was united in one collective consciousness, which is why that was the highest vibration, right? And gold is still thought of as the purest metal, the eternal metal, the highest vibration. That splitting away also happened toward the end of the Silver Age, leading to the Copper Age. Now, the Copper Age is when beings became green-skinned and more copper and chlorophyll in their blood instead of silver. So this is really the last sort of high vibrational age, because at this point in time, beings could still access like the fourth and fifth dimension. They still had some semblance of their, memories when they would incarnate, because the way it was before, the Golden Ages, there was really no separation. You had multi-dimensional presence. You were like a god. You had all your memories. You know who you were. You could just effortlessly, dimensionally travel and being aware. Silver Age was a little more restricted, but you still, could pass in and out through stargates, and you still had a connection to different realms. You can communicate with animals. Now, the Copper Age, there was still the communication with animals and elemental realms, but it only went up to like 4 to 5D, no higher than 5D. And by this point in time, these Earth races were becoming more disconnected from the Earth and energy itself. So this is, and again, there was already a division going on between the masculine and feminine, which was playing out through the war at Atlantis and Lemuria. So in the Copper Age, Lemuria has fallen, and now all that's left is Atlantis. So Atlantis is going more into their technological focus. They are really starting to lose the higher light crystalline sciences. They're starting to lose their connection with animals, and they're starting to lose their memory. So there's a lot going on during the Copper Age here, but they're still, they're still connected. They're still connected, but there's a disconnect happening. By the time the Bronze Age comes around, which is the fourth age and fourth root race, we now have the bronze-skinned people with the orange blood, or bronze in their blood, okay? This is the race that came just before the race that we are part of now, which is the Iron Age race, the red-brown skin ranging from, pink, red, brown tones, and the iron-blooded. Our blood literally is mostly iron, but this was not always the case. The Bronze Age is really when you start going into, it's almost like a descent. It's like mankind, there was a reset, and mankind forgot who they were, and after the fall of Atlantis, it was like a total sort of dissembling of society. The wisdom was broken apart and scattered and hidden. This is also symbolic of the body of Osiris being chopped up. It's also a metaphor for, the wisdom being broken apart and sort of shared into different, groups or tribes, different languages coming, them going to different areas on the earth. Some of them even fled to different earth rings, which I talk about earth rings in other videos I've done. I'm not going to really go into that in this channel. But basically, this is when we entered the Bronze Age. This is really the fall of Atlantis and entering into a lower state of mankind where there was really a major ignorance and forgetting and a reset. And also at this point in time, the root races, a lot of the previous root races that were still lingering, or some of them hadn't transitioned or hadn't died out, a lot of them, were sort of retreating now and really were living in underground caves or living in the mountains. They were, going through stargates, portals along the ice wall. But some of them did linger, and there were wars that were breaking out between, the fourth and even the fifth root race and some of these lineages that had lingered over. A lot of movies, like Lord of the Rings is an example, because in Lord of the Rings, it was really going from, like the end of the Silver Age into the Copper Age, and the end of the Copper Age into the Bronze Age. So you really see that sort of happening in that book. And even with Lord of the Rings resembles, the different earth rings as well. And it even shows how some of the other races, at one point they were all together at the same time. The different, root races and branches of root races, but then they all went their separate ways because, those ages were coming to an end, and now it was the age of the next root race. So they understood, like when the elves left, for example, and the wizards, like they understood that their age was coming to an end. Now was the age of mankind. That's really a good example of that as well. And so with the Bronze Age, there's really them sort of, it's almost like trying to rediscover their identity and figure out who they are. And really, it's going more tribal. It's less about like one civilization or one unified city or civilization, like with the previous civilizations, like of, Atlantis and Lemuria and things of that nature, and it's going more into like the Egyptian civilizations, the Indian civilizations from Indus Valley, Sumerian, things of that nature. These types of smaller civilizations which still have some semblance of the ancient wisdom and knowledge, but nowhere near as much as their predecessors or their ancestors had, who were in, Mu, Atlantis, and Lemuria. So by the time the Iron Age rolls around, there's a total fall of ignorance. There's a total disconnect, connection to the elemental realms, connection to other realms, becomes, fantasy and folk tales and religion. And there is this obsession with, power through warfare, which is really what the Iron Age is about. Power through warfare and conquest. And this becomes the focus. And using paradigms and propaganda to accomplish it. Using religion and race and gender and things of that nature as division points to accomplish these goals, and really disconnecting people from their roots of the previous age of tribalism, which was more so the Bronze Age. So you can see how this disconnect just gets turns into a wider and wider chasm. So we are currently in the Iron Age, ranging from pink, red, and brown skinned people. Even people that are considered melanated or so-called black people are really brown if you think about it. And those that are of a very dark black blue skin tone are really sort of semblances of those previous races from the time of Atlantis and Lemuria, the blue race people. So they're sort of like, hybridized lineages of those people, or more so connected to those people. We have coming up next the 6th root race and the 7th root race. Then we have the end of the cycle. So all of these ages make up a cycle. So once we reach the 7th age, then we come to the end of the cycle of Earth, and then there is a total reset. It could be the collapse of the entire Earth plane. It could be a collapse of the entire galaxy, maybe even the universe itself. Who knows? The Blue Avians didn't really cover that, but they were just letting me know there is an end of the cycle after the 7th root race, and that 7th age comes about. There will be sort of a return to the golden age in that sense, but it's more like a spiral than a circle. In other words, before the collapse of that cycle, there is going to be reaching the golden age, but it's going to be to a whole nother level. And so I'm going to get into that too, because we're going to start talking about the carbon to diamond consciousness, the golden children, the diamond children, the crystal children, the indigo children, the violets, the rainbows, and the lavenders. And there may be some overlap with other people who have talked about this, but I'm really going to share specifically what these blue avian beings talk to me about this. But I'm going to do this in a part 2. This is going to be the part 1 where I'm going over the different ages and races. Part 2, I'm going to go into the coming souls and also how we can activate to these energetic levels ourselves at this time. And not just, because this isn't just for the new souls coming in. We can also activate, because these are energy vibrations. So I just want to make that clear as well. So I hope you guys enjoyed this part 1 to this video series. Stay tuned for part 2 where I'm going to go into that. Take care and shalom. Check out my website, thetantricdragoness.com, to book a private akashic reading or any other reading. Also akashic portraits, consultations, shamanic journeys, starseed charts, primordial dragon fire healing, and much more. You can also subscribe to Patreon to learn how to do a lot of this yourself through various templates I've designed. Activate Diamond Consciousness, Activate the Black Flame, Journey the Underworld, Tantric Healing and BDSM, Astral Projection and Power, Shields, Cloaks, Wards, Learning Light Language, Exclusive and Premiere Readings, Soul Fragment Retrieval, Advanced Ancestral Work, Creating Your Own Shamanic Sanctuary, and much more. Thanks for your support, and stay tuned for future videos.